Snorts-a-Lot, The Night of the Oink Table. Copyright 2025 Essa Millila, all rights reserved. Support the author by donating, link in description, also linked to Sir Snorts-a-Lot's own Facebook page. Chapter 1. Sir Snorts-a-Lot and the Jelly Dragon. In the whimsical Kingdom of Hamalot, where the rivers flowed with sparkling lemonade and the clouds sometimes rained sprinkles, lived a knight unlike any other. This was Sir Snorts-a-Lot, a brave and undeniably squishy pig knight whose armour gleamed with a well-polished sheen, though it often looked a size too small, stretching over his rather rotund belly. He wasn't the tallest, nor the most graceful, but when it came to valour, Sir Snorts-a-Lot was second to none, especially if the valour involved snacks. One sunny afternoon, a frantic squeal echoed through the royal castle, shaking the very foundations of Hamalot. King Crumpet, a monarch whose crown perpetually tilted and whose sceptre was often mistaken for a giant biscuit, had summoned Sir Snorts-a-Lot to the royal chambers. "Sir Snorts-a-Lot!" King Crumpet wailed, his eyes wide as teacups. "A terrible beast! It threatens the very heart of our kingdom! The royal bakery!" Sir Snorts-a-Lot's ears perked up. The royal bakery was indeed the heart of Hamalot, its ovens constantly churning out cronuts, croissants and crumpets, filling the air with the intoxicating aroma of freshly baked goods. A threat to the bakery was a threat to everything dear. Donning his trusty, slightly too small helmet and grabbing his unique weaponry, a toast shield perfectly browned and buttered, and a shimmering butter sword that dripped ever so slightly, Sir Snorts-a-Lot trotted towards the crisis. He arrived at the bakery to find a scene of utter, delicious chaos. Flour dusted every surface, cream puffs lay splattered like fallen snow, and a colossal, shimmering creature wobbled ominously amidst the wreckage. This was no fire-breathing monster or scaly serpent, oh no. This was a jelly dragon, a colossal giggling beast made entirely of glistening raspberry jelly. It quivered with every breath, sending sweet, sticky tremors through the room. The dragon, whose eyes were two large blueberries, let out a soft, quivering roar that sounded suspiciously like a belly laugh. "Giggle goo goo," it burbled, then slurped up an entire tiered cake in one go, crumbs sticking to its wobbly surface. It wasn't menacing, it was ravenous. "Unhand that scone, foul fiend!" Sir Snorts-a-Lot declared, raising his butter sword, which dripped a tiny dollop onto his snout. The jelly dragon stopped mid-slurp, its jelly body rippling. But I'm made of dessert," it jiggled, a tear of raspberry syrup rolling down its side. "I have identity issues. I just want to belong, and all these cakes, they understand me." Sir Snorts-a-Lot paused. A beast with identity issues? This was a new one. A conventional sword fight seemed inappropriate, almost rude. He lowered his butter sword. "Perhaps," he mused, his snout twitching, "we can settle this differently." He then had a stroke of genius, a plan as bold and unconventional as his chosen weaponry. "I, Sir Snorts-a-Lot, challenge you, Jelly Dragon, to a jiggle-off!" The Jelly Dragon's blueberry eyes widened. A jiggle-off? It had never heard of such a thing. Intrigued, it let out another series of giggles, which caused a nearby stack of cookies to topple. And so the epic jiggle-off began. Sir Snorts-a-Lot, despite his squat stature, proved to be an astonishingly agile jiggler. He wiggled his snout, shimmied his shoulders, and performed a surprisingly nimble pig pirouette, his armour clanking rhythmically. The jelly dragon, not to be outdone, bounced and quivered with gusto, sending waves of raspberry jelly splashing across the bakery floor. For 30 minutes, the royal bakery became a dance floor of unparalleled absurdity. There was intense wiggling, jelly spraying in delightful arcs, and one minor frosting avalanche that coated Sir Snorts-a-Lot's helmet in vanilla goodness. Finally, exhausted but exhilarated, both challenger and challenged collapsed onto the sugary floor. The jelly dragon let out a weak, happy gurgle. Sir Snorts-a-Lot, covered in a sticky, sweet sheen, extended a hoof. "A truce?" he puffed. The jelly dragon, still quivering, responded by extending a wobbly, sticky limb. Sir Snorts-a-Lot, remembering a trick his grandma taught him, coated his hoof in a dollop of peanut butter from a nearby jar. With a firm yet surprisingly gentle peanut butter handshake, the jelly dragon was tamed. Its identity crisis seemed to melt away, replaced by a profound sense of belonging. The Kingdom of Hamalot, always ready for a celebration, declared it snack time forever. The jelly dragon, now named Jiggle Wiggle, became the official royal jelly, residing in a specially constructed, refrigerated grotto, offering delicious wobbly treats to all who visited. Sir Snorts-a-Lot returned to his duties a hero once more, his reputation for unconventional heroism firmly cemented, and his armour still smelling faintly of raspberry and peanut butter. Chapter 2: The Quest for the Missing Underpants. Life in Hamalot settled back into its usual rhythm of gentle absurdity after the jelly dragon incident. Sir Snorts-a-Lot was enjoying a well-deserved nap in his hammock, dreaming of bacon-flavoured clouds, when a piercing shriek echoed through the castle halls, so high-pitched it made the teacups rattle on their saucers. It was Lady Barbar, the royal sheep seamstress, her woolly head a tangled mess, her knitting needles trembling like plucked harp strings. She stood before King Crumpet, who was attempting, with limited success, to use a napkin as a makeshift loincloth. "Oh, sire! The horror! The indignity!" Lady Barbar wailed, clutching a swatch of purple velvet to her chest. "They're gone! Poof! Vanished into thin air!" King Crumpet, looking rather exposed and bewildered, added, "And without them, Lady Barbar, I simply cannot attend my own royal tea party. Imagine the scandal, the shame! A king without his royal underthings." He shivered dramatically. Sir Snorts-a-Lot, now fully awake and sensing a new, albeit peculiar adventure, trotted forward. "Fear not, your majesty. Sir Snorts-a-Lot is on the case. No underpant napper can escape the snout of justice. His loyal squire, Moo-dini the cow magician, a bovine of impressive magical talent, though prone to minor spelling errors in his spellcasting, materialized beside him with a puff of glittery smoke. Indeed, good Sir Snorts-a-Lot, my magical udder sight will surely guide us." Their investigation began in King Crumpet's royal wardrobe, which smelled faintly of old socks and lavender. The only clues were a trail of cookie crumbs leading out the window and a single, suspiciously familiar piece of sock lint clinging to a discarded royal boot. "Cookie crumbs," Moo-dini mooed thoughtfully, tapping his chin with a hoof. "And sock lint. This narrows it down to, approximately half the kingdom." Sir Snorts-a-Lot, however, had a keen nose for mischief and baked goods. He followed the trail, which wound its way through the royal gardens, past the giggling jelly dragon's grotto, and eventually, surprisingly, up the tallest oak tree in Hamalot. At the top, perched proudly on a branch, was a makeshift flagpole. And on that flagpole, flapping gloriously in the breeze, were King Crumpet's shimmering silk royal underpants, emblazoned with tiny golden crowns. And next to them, striking a heroic pose, was none other than Sir Gassy McToot, a squirrel knight of notorious flatulence. He was polishing a very small, very shiny acorn. "Aha!" Sir Snorts-a-Lot exclaimed, pointing his butter sword upwards. "The thief, Sir Gassy McToot, prepare to face justice for your undergarment appropriation." Sir Gassy McToot, startled, nearly dropped his acorn. "Undergarment appropriation? Pish-posh, pig knight! I merely found a most excellent flag, its royal crest, its flowing silk. It's perfect for declaring my tree territory." He then let out a rather impressive burp, which rustled the leaves. "A flag?" Moo-dini blinked. "But those are the king's royal unmentionables." "Nonsense," McToot declared, then puffed out his chest, which unfortunately led to a rather loud and surprisingly powerful that caused a nearby bird's nest to wobble. "If you want them, Sir Snorts-a-Lot, you'll have to take them from me. I challenge you to a fart joust." Sir Snorts-a-Lot had faced many challenges, wobbly dragons, protesting vegetables, even helium-induced nobility. But a fart joust? This was truly novel. He looked at Moo-dini, who simply shrugged, his magical udder sight offering no helpful guidance on this particular form of combat. "Very well, Sir Gassy McToot," Sir Snorts-a-Lot declared, despite the slight tremor in his trotters. "To the jousting grounds!" The jousting grounds were quickly set up in a clearing beneath the giant oak. The weapons? 2 sturdy pogo sticks. The rules? Simple. Jousters would bounce towards each other on their pogo sticks, attempting to dislodge their opponent with strategically timed flatulence. The battle was, as expected, windy. Sir Gassy McToot, with his impressive squirrel agility and naturally high-octane digestive system, was a formidable opponent. He bounced with furious energy, unleashing a barrage of small, rapid poofs that smelled faintly of roasted nuts. Sir Snorts-a-Lot, while heavier, had the advantage of pure, unadulterated pig power. He bounced with a determined, rhythmic, "sprowing!" Sproing, building up pressure, the air grew thick with various aromas. Sir Snorts-a-Lot, with a mighty grunt, unleashed a that was less a fart and more a directed blast of air. It was a legendary snort fart, so powerful it not only knocked Sir Gassy McToot clean off his pogo stick, sending him spinning into a raspberry bush, but also inadvertently trimmed the leaves of a nearby shrub into the shape of a teacup. Victory and laundry was restored. Sir Gassy McToot, smelling of raspberry and slight embarrassment, reluctantly unclipped the royal underpants from his branch flagpole. The underpants were returned to King Crumpet with honour and a few scorch marks from the intensity of the fart joust. King Crumpet, now properly attired, beamed. "Sir Snorts-a-Lot, you have once again saved the dignity of the crown, and dare I say, added a certain zing to my unmentionables." Sir Snorts-a-Lot simply smiled, a hero in his own right, perhaps a little winded, but always ready for the next peculiar peril of Hamalot. Chapter 3. Attack of the Vegetable Uprising. A peaceful morning in Hamalot was often heralded by the gentle clatter of breakfast plates and the cheerful chirping of marshmallow robins. But one particular morning an unsettling rumble began to shake the very ground beneath Sir Snorts-a-Lot's trotters. It wasn't a rumble of thunder or a rumbling tummy. It was a rhythmic, determined thumping accompanied by the indignant rustling of leaves. What in the name of pickled pig's feet is that commotion? Sir Snorts-a-Lot wondered, peeking out his window to see what appeared to be an army of tiny green figures marching purposefully across the royal lawn. King Crumpet, looking utterly bewildered, burst into Sir Snorts-a-Lot's study, clutching his crown as if it might fly off. "Sir Snorts-a-Lot! It's an uprising! A chlorophyll-fueled rebellion! The very vegetables of our kingdom have taken up arms!" And indeed they had. Led by a particularly stern-looking stalk of broccoli wearing a tiny menacing cape, the veggie villains had risen. There were militant carrots sharpening their tips against cobblestones, angry peas rolling in formation, and a surprisingly agile band of spinach leaves attempting to tie up the royal guard with their stems. The leader, Count Broccolord, stood atop a giant pumpkin, his florets bristling with righteous fury. "No more steaming! No more boiling! And certainly no more blending," he boomed, his voice surprisingly deep for a vegetable. "We demand our freedom. We demand to be raw. We demand crunchiness." Sir Snorts-a-Lot, ever the pragmatist, realised that a butter sword might not be effective against an army of sentient greens. Diplomacy seemed the only logical course. He stepped forward, raising a hoof in a gesture of peace. "Esteemed Broccolord," Sir Snorts-a-Lot declared, trying to sound as diplomatic as a pig knight could. "Surely we can find a crunchy compromise, perhaps a negotiation over a nice dipping sauce?" Count Broccolord narrowed his tiny, beady eyes. "Dipping sauce? You mock us, pig knight. We are not mere condiments. We are beings, and we will not be mashed, pureed, or stir-fried into submission." Moo-dini, the cow magician, who had arrived with a rather perplexed expression, offered, "Perhaps a spell, Sir Snorts-a-Lot? Veggie vanishing vapour?" "No, Moo-dini," Sir Snorts-a-Lot replied, watching a rogue string bean attempt to trip a passing guard. "This calls for something more rhythmic." He then had another one of his brilliant, unconventional ideas. "Count Broccolord, I propose a challenge, a dance salad-off, a competition of who can groove the hardest without wilting." A ripple of murmurs went through the veggie villain ranks. "A dance salad-off?" This was unexpected. Count Broccolord considered it, his florets twitching. Very well, pig knight. But know this, we vegetables have moves honed by years of growing, swaying, and resisting the urge to become crudités." The stage was set in the royal courtyard. A giant polished platter served as the dance floor. The Hamalot Royal Orchestra, comprised of enthusiastic squirrels playing acorn trumpets and chipmunks on leaf flutes, struck up a lively tune. First up was a bold carrot, who executed a surprisingly intricate breakdance routine, spinning on its tip and performing a series of impressive spins. The crowd of ham folk and bewildered castle staff gasped. Then a cool beatbox dropped a sick beat, thumping its root rhythmically against the platter, creating a funky groove that even made Count Broccolord tap a tiny root. The dance-off was intense. A group of bell peppers performed a synchronized salsa. A lone cucumber did a worm that stretched halfway across the dance floor. But then it was Sir Snorts-a-Lot's turn. He stepped onto the platter, took a deep breath, and unleashed his secret weapon, the moonwalk across mashed potatoes. With a squishy sliding grace, he glided backwards over a specially prepared section of fluffy mashed potatoes, leaving a perfect, unsmashed trail. He twirled, he boogied, he even did a snout spin, sending tiny bits of potato flying like confetti. The crowd erupted. The leafy cheers were deafening. Even the veggie villains, initially stony-faced, began to sway. A little radish started tapping its foot. A shy pea bopped its head. Count Broccolord, to everyone's astonishment, let out a small guttural chuckle. "Remarkable pig night," Count Broccolord admitted, a rare smile appearing on his florets. "Your potato moonwalk, it speaks to our very roots. We concede, you win the dance salad off." Peace was made between the kingdom and its long-suffering vegetables. No longer were they merely ingredients, they were artists, dancers, and groove masters. Count Broccolord, inspired by the rhythm of the dance-off, discovered his true calling. He traded his tiny cape for a pair of oversized headphones and became a famous DJ, known throughout Hamalot as DJ Kale Yeah. His beats were legendary, often infused with natural, earthy tones and surprisingly fresh drops. Sir Snorts-a-Lot returned to his duties, a hero of harmony and mashed potato choreography, proving that sometimes the best way to deal with an uprising is to get down and bougie. The kingdom rejoiced, and the royal chefs, with the vegetables' blessing, even started experimenting with raw and rhythmic recipes. Chapter 4: Moo-dini's Magical Meltdown. The morning after the glorious dance salad off, the Hamalot castle hummed with an unusual energy. DJ Kale Yeah's beats still echoed faintly from the courtyard, and the air smelled faintly of roasted root vegetables. Sir Snorts-a-Lot was enjoying a particularly fluffy pancake breakfast when an ominous hum began to vibrate through the walls. It was a familiar hum, one that usually preceded a minor magical mishap or a rogue glitter shower. "Oh dear," mumbled Sir Snorts-a-Lot, spearing a piece of pancake. "Sounds like Moo-dini's been at the spell book again." And indeed, his loyal squire, Moo-dini the cow magician, was at the heart of the commotion. In his personal magical laboratory, which was mostly just a broom closet filled with bubbling cauldrons and suspiciously glowing herbs, Moo-dini was attempting a new spell. He held his emergency udder wand, a surprisingly powerful, if slightly sticky magical implement, aloft, a look of intense concentration on his bovine face. "Aha!" Moo-dini exclaimed. "With this, I shall perfect my Bovinus Balloonicus spell. It will allow for swift, silent travel across the kingdom, bypassing all those pesky muddy puddles." He chanted a series of arcane words, culminating in a dramatic "Moogaloo Balloon-a-doo!" A shimmering rainbow-coloured mist erupted from his wand, swirling through the castle. Instead of granting himself balloon-like buoyancy, however, the spell washed over everyone inside. Within moments, the castle was in uproar. King Crumpet, mid-sip of his morning tea, suddenly found himself floating towards the ceiling, his crown askew. Lady Bar, who was mending a royal sock, drifted upwards, her knitting needles clinking against the chandelier. Even the royal cat, Whiskers, floated lazily through the air, looking utterly unconcerned. "By my trotting trotters!" Sir Snorts-a-Lot exclaimed, looking up at the ceiling, which was now dotted with various floating nobles. Dame Gigglesnort, a particularly portly duchess known for her booming laugh, was now orbiting the chandelier, her guffaws echoing with a strange high-pitched helium quality. Moo-dini, however, remained firmly on the ground, looking absolutely aghast. "Oh, fiddle-faddle! I seem to have miscalculated the gravitational displacement coefficient. Everyone's a helium balloon!" He wrung his hooves, his magical glow fading to a nervous flicker. The floating nobles, initially amused, were starting to look panicked as they bumped into tapestries and portraits. "We're drifting! We're drifting to the sky!" shrieked a particularly fluffy lord as he neared an open window. Sir Snorts-a-Lot knew he had to act fast. He wasn't about to let the entire Hamalot aristocracy float off into the heavens like a colourful aristocratic parade. He quickly ran to the royal pantry, emerging with a pair of very heavy, very dusty stone bricks. He tied them firmly to his trotters with bits of rope. "All right, Moo-dini!" Sir Snorts-a-Lot declared, his voice muffled by the clanking, blanking bricks as he tried to walk normally. "What's the counterspell? How do we de-balloon everyone?" Moo-dini frantically flipped through his spellbook, sweat beading on his brow. It says a sudden high-pitched release of air. A sonic pop. But what could generate such a thing? Sir Snorts-a-Lot, looking up at Dame Gigglesnort, who was now perilously close to the castle's highest spire, had an idea. An idea as outrageous as it was brilliant. An idea only a pig knight could conceive. "Moo-dini, hand me your emergency udder wand and stand back!" With the bricks weighing him down, Sir Snorts-a-Lot took a deep, concentrated breath. He aimed Moo-dini's udder wand at the floating nobles, his snout twitching. Then, with all the power he could muster, he performed a majestic, truly earth-shattering sneeze. It wasn't just any sneeze. It was a legendary pig knight sneeze. It was a perfectly pitched, resonant that, amplified by Moo-dini's wand, created a localized sonic boom. The Bovinus Balloonicus spell shimmered, crackled, and then, with a series of tiny, almost imperceptible pop-pop-pops, began to deflate. The floating nobles, with bewildered looks on their faces, gently descended. They landed with soft thuds, not on the hard floor, but in various strategically placed jellybean bushes that dotted the castle's interior courtyards. King Crumpet landed in a bush of lemon jellybeans, looking slightly sticky but utterly relieved. Dame Gigglesnort, freed from her chandelier orbit, settled into a bed of cherry jellybeans, her laugh returning to its normal booming volume. Moo-dini, relieved that no one had floated away permanently, gasped, "Sir Snorts-a-Lot, your sneeze! It was magical!" King Crumpet, now picking a green jellybean off his crown, nodded sagely. "Indeed, a truly heroic sneeze. Moo-dini, while your magic may be a tad unpredictable, your intention was noble. I hereby promote you to official Sky Wizard, with a strict and binding no ballooning clause in your contract. And Sir Snorts-a-Lot, for your quick thinking and magnificent nasal power, you shall receive extra crispy bacon at breakfast." Sir Snorts-a-Lot's snout twitched with delight. The castle returned to normal, though the faint scent of helium and jellybeans lingered for days. And Moo-dini, the official Sky Wizard, vowed to stick to spells that involved less levitation and more glitter, always remembering the power of a well-placed pig sneeze. Chapter 5. The Great Snore-Off. The Kingdom of Hamalot, having survived a giggling dragon, missing underwear, an angry vegetable uprising, and a helium-induced nobility, thought it had seen it all. But then came the rumbling. Not the gentle rumble of a hungry stomach or the distant roll of thunder, but a deep, resonant, window-rattling snore! It started subtly, a low thrum that made the milk curdle mid-air and caused King Crumpet's crown to vibrate right off his head. Soon it grew into a colossal, earth-shaking roar that sent minor tremors through the castle walls and even caused the jelly dragon to jiggle nervously in its grotto. "What in the name of sleepy slippers is that?" cried Lady Barbar as her knitting needles bounced out of her hands. Sir Snorts-a-Lot, having just settled down for a well-deserved afternoon nap himself, peered out his window to see the source of the disturbance. There, sprawling across the entire royal bridge, effectively blocking all trade and traffic into Hamalot, was Snorzilla, a truly enormous, very sleepy hedgehog. Its quills, usually bristling, were flattened by the sheer force of its own snores, and a small cloud of zays floated above its massive snout. Moo-dini the cow magician, looking rather pale, levitated a teacup for King Crumpet. "Your Majesty! The bridge is blocked, and the noise! It's causing minor earthquakes! The royal teacups are cracking!" King Crumpet, his face ashen, clutched his vibrating sceptre. "We must rouse it, but how? It's too large to move, and too sleepy to reason with." Sir Snorts-a-Lot trotted forward, his snout twitching. He had faced many foes, but never one whose primary weapon was sheer slumber. He looked at Snorzilla, a creature of magnificent, undeniable sleepiness. An idea, wild and bold as ever, formed in his mind. "Fear not, Hamalot," Sir Snorts-a-Lot declared, his voice cutting through the thundering snores. "I shall challenge this somnolent beast to a snore-off!" King Crumpet blinked. A snore-off? Sir Snorts-a-Lot, are you sure?" "Absolutely, Your Majesty." Sir Snorts-a-Lot puffed out his chest. Whoever snores loudest wins the title of Supreme Napper, and more importantly, gets unlimited bedtime snacks. Snorzilla, roused slightly by the mention of bedtime snacks, opened one beady eye which was the size of a carriage wheel. It emitted a grumbling snort that shook the leaves off every tree in a 5-mile radius. It seemed to accept the challenge. The snore-off commenced. The rules were simple. Each contestant would take turns unleashing their mightiest snore. The judges were the royal court's most esteemed sleep experts, mostly sleepy owls and a very relaxed badger. Snorzilla went first. With a mighty inhale, its massive body swelled, and then it unleashed a snore that wasn't just a sound, it was an event. It was a rumbling, roaring, earth-shattering zzz-senori that sent shockwaves through the air. 3 rooftops in the nearest village flew clean off, and a perfectly good fountain spontaneously began to squirt milk instead of water. The judges wobbled on their feet, impressed. Then it was Sir Snorts-a-Lot's turn. He closed his eyes, focusing. He remembered the ancient pig snoring techniques passed down through generations of his family, techniques honed during countless post-meal naps. He recalled the specific angle of the snout, the perfect breath control, the precise vibration of the little piggy snorter. Sir Snorts-a-Lot took a deep, cavernous breath, his whole body tensing. He wasn't just going to snore, he was going to perform a masterpiece of nasal resonance. With a Herculean effort, he unleashed a snore so profoundly powerful, so utterly magnificent, it was almost lyrical. It was a snore that echoed off the clouds, rattled every single window pane in the kingdom, blew off an additional 3 rooftops, and, as an accidental side effect, restarted a broken windmill that had been dormant for 50 years. The judges, eyes wide, gave Sir Snorts-a-Lot a unanimous nod. Snorzilla, who had actually woken up from the sheer force of Sir Snorts-a-Lot's snore, slowly, respectfully lifted its massive head. It looked at the pig knight, blinked its beady eyes, and then, with a defeated shrug of its massive quilled shoulders, rolled off the royal bridge. Snorzilla lumbered away, seeking a quieter, more isolated hill for its naps, leaving the bridge clear and the kingdom blessedly silent, except for the now working windmill. To celebrate, the town threw Sir Snorts-a-Lot a grand pyjama parade. Everyone in Hamalot participated, wearing their fuzziest slippers, most ridiculous bedtime hats, and coziest pyjamas. Sir Snorts-a-Lot, the supreme napper, rode at the head of the parade, his snout twitching happily, already dreaming of the unlimited bedtime snacks that awaited him. The end. Or is it? The adventures in Hamalot always had a way of surprising everyone, especially Sir Snorts-a-Lot.